Hey everyone, my name is Chris. This is one in a series of videos in which we will walk through the entire process of a GA4 account construction from tracking code placement all the way to dashboard creation. We're working on the Maui Humane Society account on this one. In exchange for my services on this project, the Maui Humane Society has been nice enough to allow me to share this video and tutorials like this in this series. In this one, we're going to be talking about a wish list. What's a wish list? It's essentially just a quick list of things that we want to track in addition to the events that Google Analytics 4 will track by default. The reason a wish list is important comes down to this. Now, if you will, imagine that this is universal analytics, the older version of analytics that we all know and loved and that we use for about 12, 15 years or so. When you opened up a new Universal Analytics account, it was kind of like a furnished apartment. And you can see in this example, we've got a sofa and a coffee table, chairs, a table. There's even art on the walls. Okay, now that's Universal Analytics. You really didn't have to do too much. You might have had to configure maybe a couple events, turn on some filters, activate some conversions, but that was basically it. Now with GA4, it's a different story because when you open a new GA4 account, it looks a little like this. It's pretty sparse. Yes, there's some nice flooring. Looks like we've got electrical outlets. The walls have been painted. We have a view, but not a very good one. And so when we look at GA4, all that we're really collecting out of the gate from an event tracking perspective is just these here. These are the only events that GA4 will be tracking automatically. And in some of these, you actually have to enable or disable depending upon what you want to track. So everything from page views to first visits or new users or new visits, user engagements. It does track scroll, but only to the 90th percentile of the page. So that's a little bit of a tricky one. Clicks, which is kind of a nebulous term, that's any external click or a click on an external resource away from your website. File downloads, and then some video interactions as long as that video is in a YouTube embed. Okay, so the reason we want to create a wish list is so we can track all of the things that are unique to us and our business, our brand, or organization. And so when we do this, we really want to start with the statement, I would like to track when blank. And whatever that is, you will want to write down. You can work individually, you can work as a team, whatever process you adopt that is best for you, go for it. But the idea is if we don't write it down, it doesn't exist. So we do have some wish list documentation, which I will walk you through. It's going to look a lot like this. The documentation will provide a list of all the events that I just noted with a little description or definition of what those events are that Google automatically tracks. Our job is going to fill in this area here, in which we identify the specific behaviors that are meaningful to us. When we create a wish list, and then when we actually create some tags to measure and track all these different behaviors that are unique and important to us, we get closer to the point where it's not Google Analytics, it's your brand here analytics, or in this case, Maui Humane Society analytics. Okay, so again, that documentation is going to be here. You can access this and take a look at it. You can also find a sample or template of all this documentation that I'm sharing with you at teach2fishdigital.com/GA4, but the one we're looking at just for this particular project can be found at teach2fishdigital.com/Maui. Again, we document everything because if we don't write it down, it doesn't exist. Let's take a look at this documentation. So here we go. Very similar to what you saw just a moment ago on that slide. Here's a list of all of the different events that we are tracking automatically. So anyone who has a GA4 account is going to be tracking these things unless they are disabled. You can disable them if you want, if you don't want to track things like clicks or file downloads or videos or whatever it is. You can disable a lot of these items, or actually all of them except for page view and session start and I think first visit. So what I did is I actually called a meeting with the folks at Maui Humane Society, and we actually sat down to talk through what it is that is important to track. Now, here's a little tip. If you are a consultant, if you're an agency, if you're in my shoes or similar shoes to mine in which you are actually doing this service for a brand or for someone else, or even if you're an in-house analytics person, always come to this meeting with an idea of what it is you want to track. Okay, so you should have an idea when you walk into the meeting exactly, if I were you, I'd probably want to track X and Y and Z. All right, so always kind of be prepared for that meeting. And so when we take a look at this, you'll see if we scroll down a little bit here, we started to identify different behaviors that are going to be meaningful for us to track. And we actually put them in categories. The categories might come into play later on when it's time to come up with a naming convention for these different events. So every one of these is going to represent a new event. So these are default, and all of these, we'll name them later, but these are going to be the behaviors that are unique to us or to Maui Humane Society that we'll want to track over time, right? And so we've got different categories for wayfinding, homepage activity. Obviously, donation is a big piece of the pie for Maui Humane Society. Adoption-oriented events, foster care-oriented events, and all types of different things. Just so you can see what this looks like, if we look at like one of the wayfinding events that we took a look at, visitor clicks on header buttons at top of page, lost and found, adopt, donate, etc. It's these guys right here. So they want to track these 3 items right here. Why would they want to do this? Well, one, are people utilizing this information or this navigation? As you can see, it's sticky, so as I scroll down, it stays at the top of the page. And they'll probably want to answer the questions, which are people most likely to access, donate, adopt, or lost and found. And we might want to reorder these things or introduce a different button for a different activity or content that is more meaningful. So you can kind of learn about your customers and what their preferences are if you track these types of things. Is it mandatory that you track navigation? Not at all. You can track whatever you want. That's the point. You want to write it down first. You might have heard some dogs in the background. Every time I talk about navigation, they get a little excited, so excuse that. But you might want to track some of these things as we go, just to learn more about who your audience is and what they care most about. Okay, let's look at something else. Right here, I think on the home page, we had visitor clicks on CTA buttons on homepage sliders. So like a lot of websites, you're going to see this slider piece right here. What we're going to measure is which of these buttons here they're actually tracking to see if there's a specific slider that is really important versus some other ones, or very popular versus other ones, or even if the homepage slider is used at all, or at least how often it's used in relation to some of the other wayfinding navigation elements on the page. So again, you can track whatever you want. I think there's going to be a warning of caution just to not track something just because we can, but really think about the questions you're looking to answer over time and what data you're looking to access. Okay, let's look at another one real quick. So I think on, for example, the adopt page. So when someone clicks to view more details for an adopt pet, when we're on this adoption page here, I'm at Pets for Adoption, this page here. Whenever I select one of these for like Ashton, for example, when I select Ashton, I can actually track that, and I can actually rank order which of the most, what are the most popular pets in the adoption area. We can actually add parameters for the ID of the pet's name, the species, is it a dog, is it a cat, is it a parrot, whatever it is, right? And so we can gather all of this when we actually track clicks. So every one of these behaviors is pretty much click oriented, right? So they're all clicks on the website that are meaningful to us that we want to track. Let's look at one more just to kind of get the flavor of this. The volunteer piece of this is really important, obviously, for Maui Humane Society, and as well as any other nonprofit for the most part. So visitor clicks to access volunteer application form. What's that? Well, on the volunteer page, which we're at right now, so new volunteer orientation, there is a button, volunteer application form, which will take them to an exterior or another website. Okay, so once they move here, we can't actually add our tracking code to this, so we're lost, but we can at least show intent, or the intent to click and learn more about the application process by clicking on the form. We can track this behavior. So anything on the website that we can click on, for the most part, there's a good chance that we can track it. Okay, so before we go any further, I think there is a good word of warning here in terms of just because you can doesn't mean you should. So just because you can track social media clicks or every navigation link or every little button on the website, if that button is important, if it tells you something critical about your visitor's behavior that will in turn encourage you to take some action to improve upon the website experience, your marketing program, just the website as a whole, do it. But if you can't really make an argument that whatever it is you're tracking will actually have some substance later on in some report that you want to look at, then you might want to skip over it and just keep it simple. Okay. All right, so this wish list piece is a really critical part. It's actually just the first step in a larger process. And so subsequent videos will talk through not only just the wish list piece that we've done here, but also how to create tags. And so you're going to see some videos if you carry on in this series about how to create some of these GTM, Google Tag Manager tags, to measure these behaviors and feed the data over to GA4. And then once it's in GA4, we can take it and put it into an analytics dashboard through Looker Studio or what have you. Okay, so that's going to be the next big step for us. Okay, if you found this video helpful, please consider donating to MauiHumaneSociety.org or really any nonprofit humane society of your choice. Maui Humane Society obviously is going through a lot since the fires in Lahaina in 2023. It's still an issue, obviously, that they're working through, and so any little bit would help, and you'd be helping me out as well. So I appreciate it, and we'll talk to you in the next video.